Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the too big to fail recovery and resolution planning and how Software AG can help automate the reporting required by the regulators. So first, if anyone's not familiar with the recovery and resolution plans, this is part of the SIFI designation that hit financial services that are required to show how they would dissolve a section or legal entity of their organization in a crisis situation without negatively impacting the remainder of the organization or the global financial system as a whole. And this stems back to 2008 when Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers failed and caused tremendous stress on the financial system as a whole globally. So today what we're going to be looking at really is the IT requirements for the recovery and resolution plans. And we got this information out of the Ernst & Young report that's available on their website. They really went into the different areas that IT needs to worry about when producing these plans. So first is the need to catalog all your major systems to determine ownership at a legal entity level. Next is the need to improve the accuracy of the data on those systems and also be able to understand the exposure and dependencies between those different legal entities. Need to also sort out your vendor and lessor contracts that exist for those different systems and determine which legal entity actually holds the contracts for those systems. Then risk reporting needs to be moved from that business unit level down to the legal entity level. So first what we're going to talk about is actually the collection and cataloging of those different systems. And what we can do in Alphabet is actually automate the collection process. So if you have that information in spreadsheets or current systems today, we can actually collect the information and pull it right into the Alphabet repository without having to enter any data. If that information doesn't exist today in some sort of spreadsheet or system, what we can also do is create these wizards that go through a workflow and are sent out through your email system to the responsible parties for this information, whether it be applications or systems, and have these different stakeholders in your organization actually populate these wizards to get the information into the repository. Makes it very quick and simple to understand on what you need to capture about a specific system. Once the information is in the system, now we can start auto-generating these type of heat maps and reports to expose these different legal entity level reports that need to be sent to the regulators. So on this specific report, we're looking at on the X and Y axis the different legal entities, and in the center, in the red boxes, we're looking at the dependency level. So in this example, the darker the red, the higher the dependency, and the lighter the pink, the lower the dependency is between those entities. We can also drill down in a specific entity and then look at the dependencies that exist for that one given specific legal entity. So on the top here, we're looking at on the top left-hand side, we're looking at the other entities that this one entity is dependent on, and then on the right-hand side, we're seeing the entities that are dependent in that one specific entity we're actually drilling down into. And then on the bottom, we are seeing what is causing that dependency, whether it's a business process, it's a system, it's an application. What is the reason that those entities are dependent on each other? And once again, we can drill down even further and go down into the application and see why is it causing a dependency. So for this example, we're seeing that an application is actually producing this type of business data, is either stored or is producing that data, and all these other applications or systems that are on the right are actually needing to access that data in order to operate. The other thing we can do is also look at the landscape that exists within a legal entity as well and see all the dependencies that exist for a specific application. So in the center, we're looking at one application, and we're seeing all the other applications that interacts within that legal entity. So showing impact of what would be the cause if that were to go down. All these reports are automatically generated at a click of a button, so there's no need to draw and model out how these system dependencies look. It's all automatically generated through the system. And then if we want to really drill down even further, we can go into that integration and look at the data that's being transferred in that application and look at the specific business data that's going across those information flows. And then on the top here, we're looking at, what other apps are actually accessing that business data, or processing that data. You're looking at CRUD reports to see for this specific data, who's creating it, who's reading it, who's updating it, who has the rights to delete it. And then on the bottom, we're also looking at the usage diagram on the flow of the data as it goes through the organization, what applications are touching it. The other piece is data accuracy too. So with Alphabet's repository, it has a robust workflow that actually triggers updates to the system through the stakeholders. If data is stale or it's been a while since it's been updated, it will automatically generate these alerts to go out to the responsible parties to make sure they update the data. Also, there's things that would trigger the workflow based on there's missing data in the information about the system in the repository. Also, there's an audit trail to show who and when changed the data on a specific system or application to show any changes that have been made over time. Next piece that the regulators were looking for was more information around the vendor and lesser contracts that exist within a legal entity on those systems. And so with Alphabet, we have these pretty robust and very easy to read vendor and contract management cockpits with different types of graphs and diagrams. So in here we're seeing things like contracts per vendor. So you're showing, okay, a vendor and what vendor holds the most contracts within that legal entity or organization. Where is the spend per vendor? Which vendors are we spending the most money with? Number of contracts that exist within a legal entity, looking at it from that perspective. Then we can also drill down and look at a specific system and see things like which legal entity holds the contract for the system. What is the usage versus what's licensed? Are we using more than we're actually licensed to use? Or are we using a lot less than the license we have available to push out? What is the maintenance schedule that we're on with this specific contract and this system? And then what other applications within our organization are relying on this specific system that we're looking at here? Also, we can drill down into that specific system and see the impact analysis up across the organization to say, okay, if this system were to go down as part of a legal entity that we were dissolving, what would be the impact across the organization? So we're looking at the next level down is what applications are impacted by this system going down, what business processes or capabilities are impacted by those applications not being able to run, and then what organizations or legal entities are actually requiring those processes or capabilities in order to run their business. Last piece was around managing risk. So what we need to do as for the recovery and resolution plans is manage risk down to the legal entity level instead of at the business unit level. And with Alphabet, it allows you to slice and dice these different risk objects based on groups, so whether on types or based on a legal entity or business unit. So for these reports, we'd be slicing them on the legal entity level, and then we can start scoring these applications and systems within that legal entity to determine which ones need immediate attention. Also, what we can do is we can store this information here that can be used later down the line. So if we want to look at different things for application rationalization efforts or migration to the cloud, we now have metrics around risk that we can pull in when we start to do that. Look at those do analysis on those different areas. And then we can drill down into a specific risk object and look at what the risk is for that specific object. So with here, we're looking at a specific application that we've drilled down into and looking at the risk metrics that we've created that our organization follows, and seeing things like the probability of this risk taking place and what would be the impact to the organization if this risk were to go down. Is it monetary risk? Are we going to be losing money if this application goes down? Maybe it's PR risk if it's customer data that's being stored there, and now that customer data is loose and it's out in the open. That's going to cause a PR nightmare to say, okay, this data has been breached, and that may show up in the Wall Street Journal if this application were to go down. So it's just looking at it from different entities and different perspectives there from a risk piece. Also, once this information is all gathered and reported on, all the reports that are in the system can now be really converted at the click of a button to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, any type of format that's required by the regulators, or you need to send it out to the regulators, that allows it for quick, easy access, and also quick, easy export of the data once it's in there. So making the regulators happy because it's all there at your fingertips, and then also making the collection of the data much easier and reporting on it from the other side. So thank you, and if this is something you'd like to see more of, please let us know, and we'd be happy to dive deeper into the recovery and resolution planning with Alphabet. Thank you.